Do you think it's a good idea for artists to try to sell their work right away?
In terms of selling your art and jumping in and doing that right away, it's never been satisfying for me. For some reason, just speaking for myself only, I think that the things I tend to put the most energy into are the passion projects that I either get paid the least or nothing. Once I know I'm getting paid, it's like the job's already done, because I know that the money is coming if I meet this deadline and I meet this set of criteria, whether it's X number of words or pages or whatnot. And I find it not as fulfilling as the projects I do for myself. Now, I can only speak for myself, but I do think that there is something that can be corrupting to the process for artists that have success early in their career. It can really be almost an hindrance. As someone who's just, I've always struggled between, trying to be responsible fiscally speaking, and then also doing passion projects. There's that balance where I need to make a certain amount of money to be able to, not ever get behind on my bills. But I have seen in the past friends who become wildly successful out of the gate, and I think it can hurt them, because that doesn't mean, and you see the phenomenon with filmmakers' sophomore efforts, or the second album from a band is always kind of an off one after a huge success, and many one-hit wonders, and one-hit wonders applies both in music and film. So I do think that there's something that can be, because it creates an expectation about, well, I made X amount of money doing X thing, it will always be that way. And I can 100% tell you it will not, because the market will change. What the market wants out of you, that will change. So, there are expectations for you. You did some writing or a piece of music or a film that was like this, and then the second movie is vastly different. Why didn't you do the thing that we liked the first time? When you see filmmakers kind of consistently putting out sort of a sameness to their work, that is more than likely a fear of deviating from that thing where they know they're going to make a certain amount of money if they fulfill those requirements, and it can be a hindrance to creativity. So, I don't know. I think that early success can be an issue. Early success, or in my case, very little success. I'll just say that, I've done projects and I put things out in the world. Have they been the most financially successful? No. But have I put things out in the world that you can see? Books, magazines, pieces of writing, films. Yes, I have done those things. And I have been able to make a living at it. I guess that may be considered some kind of success. So I will slightly amend it. I'm very tough on myself. So but I do think that money can be a corrupting force. And I think that we see it when we see people, filmmakers we love, and usually their most beloved work, if you ask true filmmakers that I would consider an artist, say for example, David Lynch, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't say his big studio films were, and there are very few, were his most favorite. But I can't speak for him.
Going back to what you said earlier,
sure,
and your desire to live a creative life,
yeah,
then you've been successful at that because you didn't want to have a 9-to-5 job, and you wanted to keep creating whatever that is, whether it's a children's book,
right,
whether it's a podcast, and you've been able to do that. And so that's its own success.
I guess, yes. I never, you know what? I never really celebrate any success that I've ever had. But I consider the success kind of like just having a completed project, right? And I have done, if you look at the things I've done, it's a wide range of different types of things, for sure. So that might seem to be a lack of focus, but for me, I will get bored with something and think, well, I already know how to do that. I already know I don't need to make any more magazines. I've done magazines. I want to do something else. You know, I'll do this podcast, type of podcast, or I'll do this film project. So I'm a fan of doing things that are different, learning all about it, and then moving on to the next thing.
Do you think that's a blessing to be bored of something? I was watching this Miles Davis documentary, and he reinvented himself many, many times. And I'm just wondering, is that something that's actually, people would look at it maybe as a negative, but it's actually helped because you keep doing things, you keep trying new things.
Yeah, I keep trying new things, and I will say that some have succeeded and some I failed at miserably. I mean, God, I did a stand-up comedy album that was, it was kind of terrible, but I tied it in with like a book because CDs were dying, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do a children's book, and then it's also a comedy album, whatever. But I got to know comedians, and then I realized that in order to be successful in that realm, that is a highly focused thing. The people that are very good at that, the people that I admired, people like just Yoshi Obayashi is one of my favorite. We would do stand-up dates together, and wildly successful. He's a comedian that like other comedians love, and he opens for them. So you probably don't even know who Yoshi Obayashi is. But
I'll look him up though.
You should, look up Yoshi Obayashi. He's fantastic. He's a Korean comedian, but has a Japanese sounding name. But I learned a lot from him. And I just also learned that in order to do that, that's something where you can really, if you're going to be successful as a stand-up comedian, that's all you should do. But I had a lot of people tell me you should do stand-up. This came from doing television for a while. I did like TV on and off for like 15 years, worked for a bunch of different shows and created a couple shows and learned what it took. But I guess the thing is I'll get bored with something, and once I sort of break it down and understand it, I want to try something else. So, yeah.
Did you do stand-up in actual clubs here in LA?
Oh, yeah.
Comedy Store?
I did, not Comedy Store, but I did stand-up, and I did like comedy shows. I did like a show called Fanfic Theater. We would have comedians read fanfic that was supposedly taken from the internet. What they didn't know is we were actually writing it. I mean, comedians and actors, and then we would perform it. So yeah, I just, it was sort of an offshoot of other things that I was doing. But it was fun. I mean, I got to know a lot about what myself was, my limits, and I learned what I really like to do. I really like probably writing more than anything, is probably my most favorite. And then I also like to do crafting, as odd as that sounds, because something with my hands, whether it's modifying a piece of furniture or just doing or building something. I mean, I used to work with cars and motorcycles when I was growing up. And even when I was, I rebuilt a motorcycle, a 1972 Triumph Daytona 500. I don't recommend this vehicle, by the way. The Brits aren't known for their engineering skills, I don't think. But in any case, I ripped it apart to the frame and then rebuilt it. And I like that. There's something about that tactile, building something. I like to, when it comes to filmmaking, create a way of doing something. Like, okay, here's what we have. Let's try to do it like this, make a makeshift crane out of a 2x4, basically a seesaw, right? Like, that's a crane, or they're just ways of doing things that I think just, yes, you can pay for this expensive piece of equipment and an operator, or, the way that Sam Raimi put it. Sam Raimi used this thing that he called the shaky cam, where he would take a 2x4, he would mount a camera to the center of a board and then run with it, people on two sides, and it would give you sort of a steady cam feel. He used this for his early Evil Dead movies. And it was just using what you have. I think it forces you to think more creatively. And that's why I've always admired independent filmmakers, is because it's all to me about problem solving, which is my favorite thing to do. It's problem solving is like figuring out a puzzle, and figuring out puzzles is fun. I do consider myself a gamer, and puzzle games are among my favorites. So applying that to real life and creativity, puzzle solving can be about money. It can be about like, it just can just run the gamut of different ways to solve problems. I'll give you an example. I made this movie called My Big Fat Independent Movie, and there's a character in the movie that it's about two hitmen going to Vegas to pull a botched robbery. It's a parody of a bunch of independent films inspired by Tarantino and Amelie, the film Amelie, among others. It's a dumb spoof comedy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a great film, but we knew what it was, right? I'm just trying to make you laugh. But one of the things is I had met Bob Odenkirk on the festival circuit, and I helped Bob get his movie Melvin Goes to Dinner, which is what was his first directing effort, into a bunch of film festivals. Bob was very grateful for me helping him. And I asked him, I said, hey, can I put you in my movie? I'm making this movie, My Big Fat Independent Movie, and I think maybe there's some people you know in it, like Paget Brewster or whatever. And he said, sure, I'll be in your movie, but I've only got 30 minutes. And I'm going to the airport on this day. And in this window of time, you can shoot me. I was like, okay, all right, 30 minutes. All right, what do we do? So we wrote this character of, in the trunk of the two hitmen driving to Vegas, lives this assassin who's bleeding, kind of based on Tim Roth's character from Reservoir Dogs. And every time they would open the trunk, he would be in there. And he's like looking at them saying, I'm thinking about redecorating. What do you think about French doors in here? Like, and it was a dumb recurring joke. Then we had wild lines of dialogue. We had Bob Odenkirk for 30 minutes, shot him out in 30 minutes. And he's in the entire movie. So, because you would hear wild lines, they'd be talking to him in the trunk. It's ridiculous. I know it's stupid, but that was a creative way to solve a problem of only having an actor for 30 minutes. You're looking at maybe only getting one line out of him. As it was, he was in several scenes. Additionally, he's throughout the film as a disembodied voice in the trunk. It's weird, I know, but that was a way to solve a problem. Take an actor who I love and admire, Bob Odenkirk, knew him from Mr. Show at the time. But that's just an example, a production example, and a way to solve that problem.
And you solved the Rubik's Cube the day it came out?
No, the Rubik's Cube is something that is still challenging to me.
Really?
But
I'm surprised.
I like puzzles, video games. I don't know. Sparkle Unleashed. Look that one up on the PS4.
Okay.
One day I'll be good at it.